All right, our guys are in the house. It is the one and only, my dear friend, Richard Bennett. And with him is the House Education Vice-Chair of Education, Kent McCarty. Richard, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Good seeing you. How are you doing?
Everything on the coast okay?
Going good. It's nice down there. It's a little warmer than up here.
I don't know if the cold air has reached there. Has it reached there or what? Because it was 26 in Memphis this morning. It was 50 on the coast.
Wow.
49 to 50.
We haven't had a freeze yet this year on the coast, and I don't think it's predicted this week to be a freeze either.
Yeah, that's because you got palm trees. And,
there you go.
it's tropical at what's expected. By the way, we had 6,774 COVID cases in the last report. 6,774. We had 16 deaths. Those deaths occurred between December 31st and January 6th. Let me say also good morning to Kent McCarty. Kent, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you too, Paul.
All right, let's talk about this. There was an article from a Kaylee Skinner, and let me read a little bit of that. In recent months, conservative lawmakers and leaders alike have vowed to ban critical race theory from being taught in Mississippi public schools. This is from one of the left-leaning areas there. So when a Twitter user pointed out late December that the Mississippi Department of Education had quietly proposed changes to the state social studies standard, many expressed their dismay at the new language. In Mississippi, public schools follow standards that outline learning objectives and subject material by grade level. Social studies standards are broken into 5 categories described as strands: history, civics, geography, economics, and civil rights. At a December 16th meeting from the State Board of Education, members approved the first step in revising those standards. It was approved in a block without discussion, a standard practice from the board of this kind of item, but all proposed changes are included. So were people upset about the timing issue of this, or and I'm sure both of you got some calls on it. Richard, first of all, what's your thoughts?
Well, I actually didn't know anything about it until the Secretary of State tweeted or put it on Facebook. That was the first I'd heard of it, and then I started getting emails about it from people. I haven't looked into exactly what it is. I plan on being at the hearing on the 25th, I believe it is. I plan on being at the hearing there. I wish there was more transparency with any of these issues. I hate the fact that they vote on things in a block and don't discuss them. I've got a problem with that. But of what they're doing, I haven't dug into it, and I haven't looked at what's there. Just, it happened right here at the time whenever the sessions start, and we're dealing with a lot of stuff, and I haven't had an opportunity to dig into exactly what it is. But I do plan on being at the hearing and want to dig a little deeper into it.
Kent, were any of your constituents giving you feedback?
Yeah, I've heard from quite a few people about this issue, and I actually I've looked into it a little bit just to see kind of what some of the specific concerns were. A lot of it seemed like it was making specific things a little more general, specific ideas and concepts a little more general. And then I think some of it too is just moving things from one area to another. I know one of the things that I was particularly concerned by, and that led me to dig a little deeper into it, was it was all social media, commentary about how the pledge and things like that were removed from the curriculum, but they actually were just moved from kindergarten to first grade. So things like that on their face, I think seemed a lot worse than they were, particularly paired with the fact that this was done at such a non-transparent way and such awkward timing. I think that just kind of all fed into that. So that while I agree with the chairman. I wish there was more transparency in this process for sure, so that we weren't finding it from a Twitter user weeks later.
Here's the good news about that, and I'll credit this audience across the state, number one, in understanding that they're more sensitive to this. And they're more sensitive to this now because they're more aware of what's going on not only in this state, but certainly across the country. So that awareness makes them more sensitive to something that may be much to do about nothing, but the way you did it raises suspicions. Richard, would you agree?
Absolutely, I agree with you. It's got to have more transparency with these things, especially today.
Yes. The way things were done in the past, we're not going to do that anymore.
Absolutely. And parents need to be more involved. But I understand in the world we live today, parents are busy, they're working, they're doing everything. That's why there needs to be more transparency as far as articles of what's going on. I hope there is a big turnout on the 25th, and let MDE and school boards across this state see that parents need to be involved. They need to know what's happening. The pandemic, if one thing, it is taught us that people weren't paying attention to what's going on in the schools.
Well, we've been lulled into that for decades, to be honest with you, and we grew up in an era where we had so much trust in the principal, the superintendents, and our teachers, and a lot of that trust was earned, that we gave them our kids, and they took care of them, and they had the best in mind. But that was before the political indoctrination. If there was any political indoctrination, it was patriotic. And now we've gotten so far away from that, it's incredible. The Mississippi Department of Education, I'm reading from our C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Kent, this is something that I got. Mississippi Department of Education, MDE, implemented the state's first SEL. Now, the SEL that I didn't know was in its social emotional learning standards in January. So apparently the Mississippi Department of Education has implemented the state's first social emotional learning standards in January to address the needs of pre-K all the way till 12, K through 12 students in classrooms across the state, including self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and decision-making skills. Man, there's a lot to unpack in that. First of all, Richard, your thoughts. And well, did you know about this?
I did not, and I think it's scary. What is the purpose? What is the reason? And these are the reasons they need to have hearings on these type of things so that parents can find out what is the purpose, what are the reasoning, what are you teaching, what are we looking for, what are we looking at? And again, parents have got to get more involved. At the same time, MDE and school boards need to be much more transparent than what they are today.
Kent?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with everything that Richard said. I mean, I think there's a real need for parental involvement at every level of education, and I think that there's also an even bigger need for transparency from all the organizations involved. Just because, again, like we've already discussed, no matter what the changes are to anything, if you do them in the dead of night, the week before Christmas, and nobody knows about it, that just sends a message to people that are already questioning, some of the decisions they're making, that they don't want people's feedback. And I think that, I'm glad they're having a hearing, and I'll too plan to attend, and I think there needs to be a good turnout for that as well.
Here's what. Hang on. Let's take a break, and we're going to come back on the other side and talk more about this. But here's one thing, and I think I reflect a lot of our audience and family out there. Here's one of the things that's really upsetting. To know that the Mississippi Department of Education implemented the state's first social emotional learning standards, the method that they've done that, and it's so broad in an environment of sensitivity with CRT, and that the chairman of education in the Mississippi House of Representatives and even the vice chairman have not been aware of this, don't even know what's going on, is a little bit disturbing to all of us out there across the state, that there's not that awareness and connectivity. We'll come back and talk more next. Talking about that article from Ms. Skinner, the 309-page document has many changes like this across the strands, which remove specific names or descriptions from broader, more vague terms. There are also verb changes like swapping describe for determine how or explain instead of contrast. On social media, people question why these proposed changes were not announced or discussed by the board. Some call the move cowardly, other disturbing, and one person even described the new language in the document as fascism. So there were a lot of people in the state upset about this one. But let me get back to the fact that, is there a line of communications? Have you guys had in any hearings questioned this, or will you, with Dr. Carey Wright?
Absolutely. I will question it, and I will be at the meeting on the 25th asking questions also. And there needs to be more transparency. And you can believe what you want. It goes back to what you said earlier, Paul, that we used to trust these principals, these teachers. We knew them, and if they indoctrinated a kid, it was for the good, not a political ideology or whatever they're doing. But today, it's a shame to believe, but there are people who abuse their power today on indoctrinating kids. I'll give you an example. I get letters all the time, I guess, because I'm chairman of education, but I get letters from parents all the time from areas. They don't ever want their name used. They're always a little afraid to say, because they don't want their kid to take the repercussions of it or whatever. But I'm going to go ahead, since I got a few letters from the same school. I'm going to tell you the School of the Math and Science there, I had gotten a few parents call me and was concerned of some of the things that was going on there. Now, they don't have a school board that they answer to. They answer directly to MDE only. And they have these kids 24/7. These kids don't go home to their parents in the evenings. And so you talk about an opportunity to indoctrinate people. They have them there. And the first day of school, they were making them identify, if you were a guy, identify as a woman, a girl, or vice versa. And there were quite a few concerns. Now, to be fair to MDE, they stepped in and stopped some of this going on. And the guy that was there, I'm not sure what you call, I don't know if it's a headmaster, superintendent, principal.
Well,
but whoever,
is this a charter school or a special?
No, this is our math and science school. This is our.
Oh, this is the math and science school.
Yes, this is the brightest of the brightest in Mississippi. Now, the guy that was there over it is no longer there. He's assistant superintendent at another school district now, and he's no longer
Mississippi.
In Mississippi. And so there have been some changes there. But again, my point is, there are people who are going to take advantage of people and of kids, and parents don't know what's going on.
I understand.
Now, I'm not saying this is going on in every school. I think
it's not. Richard, I've gotten calls here many years, and it just seems like in the last year it's increased calls or emails and things such as that. And I got to tell you this, and you know this. A lot of them have been from good teachers, because the vast amount of teachers we have in the state are great teachers.
Absolutely.
They really are. And they are so scared to even say anything, because they don't want me mentioning it on the air. And you get into this juxtaposition of how you do it, and I don't want to put them at risk. But they are scared as hell of the superintendent or the principal, and sometimes it's a racial situation. It's a white or black who wants to get this out, and they can't do it. But the teachers are suppressed out there. The ones who need to have an avenue to have this exposed are a lot of times they're just scared to death. And you know that.
Absolutely. I get the letters all the time, Paul, and the teachers are scared to death. And it's the teachers that are speaking out. They're the ones that know, and they know what's going on in that school more so than the parents. And more of the letters that I get, or the phone calls I get, is from the teachers. And that is the first thing they say and the last thing they say. Do not use my name. Do not let anyone know I talked to you. That's the scary part.
I wish tomorrow there was a new association of conservative teachers formed in this state, because we got two teacher organizations, and both of them are they'd be better off not being there. So anyway, Kent, your thoughts on this one? I haven't come to you that much, but your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a shame when you already look at the the number of teachers that we're short in Mississippi, and how hard it is for us to find and recruit teachers, and adding another layer of stress and another layer of worry to the plate of the teachers that we have now. And like you said, the vast majority of teachers are incredible, and we're so thankful to have them. And I think just anything that we do that makes their job even harder than it already is, I think is a real shame.
What bills are you looking at, Richard, as far as this year? Anything that you need to spotlight here?
Well, obviously, critical race theory is going to be a bill that will come out. We're not sure what that bill looks like right now because legal staff tells us there's been a number of them asked to be drafted, and they haven't been dropped yet. So Kent and I want to sit down with some other folks also, and we want to combine those and look at them and try to take what's the best of each one of them and combine them because there's a lot of differences in each one of them. So we want to sit down and look at all of them.
All right. I'm pressing you guys because we got this limited time here. Is one of the bills going to be in there as far as the marijuana bill? Can a teacher, if they've got a medical marijuana card, can they smoke marijuana or use marijuana at school? If they have a medical card.
I don't know, Paul. I just don't know. I don't know if a teacher can take a hydrocodone now and be in a classroom teaching. I don't know what the law says.
Is
it's
that
not
something
the
chair?
education committee is going to handle, though.
Is that something as chair that you would like to have some clear-cut answer?
Oh, absolutely.
When the smoke clears, so to speak?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I'm just wondering about that one. We got money coming out all over the place here. When I had Gary right on with Pete, there's so much money out there, and at the same time, you have groups like the Parents Campaign because they have no idea what the hell they're doing. And we need more money. We need to have the MAEP. And you got money all over the place. How are you guys going to address that this year?
Well, as far as education goes, I'd like to see a revolving fund created to build school buildings and stuff, a fund that will continue to revolve, and they will pay that money back at a low to no interest. And also, I'd like to give priority to people to school districts that would start a pre-K program to build those buildings. But again, we're trying to work through that. We're trying to figure that out, how that would work. I think there was a revolving fund years ago, and I'm trying to find out how that worked, why it went away. But that is one of the ideas that Kent and I are looking at right now, is having a revolving fund.
Is there any legal reason, as we take care of this initiative process, that we couldn't have the citizens of Mississippi, white, black, brown, and fuchsia, decide to have a initiative referendum on school choice in the state?
If there's enough interest to put it on a ballot, of course. Yes.
They could do that if they wanted to. They certainly,
yes.
First line would be public schools, that you could go to any public school you wanted to. If it's outside the transportation network that's set up, you just have to make your own transportation.
Right, and we do that in some cases. A few years ago, I authored a bill that military kids had school choice, and they have to provide their own transportation to go to those different schools. Of course,
is that still in order? I mean,
yeah,
still do that?
It is, and I'll give you an example. The Navy base in Gulfport, there's about 340 kids that go to the Long Beach School District. So Long Beach actually runs a school bus on the base themselves. They don't have to, but they do to help those kids. But yeah, it's a very popular program.
One guy says, my wife couldn't have a picture of Donald Trump as president in the classroom. They always put the presidents up, but Joe Biden is up there now. That's suppression.
Absolutely,
that's not fair. You can't do that, and you shouldn't be able to do that in the classroom.
And I don't think you can, but again, that teacher would be afraid to speak out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, final thoughts from Kent. Kent, what do you think?
Well, that's quite a question, Paul. I think.
Yeah. Well, I get you shouldn't have hard. It's only 10 seconds.
I know, right? Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to the session. There's a lot of stuff I think we need to address that we hear from a lot. I mean, you hear from it. We hear from you about it all the time on the radio. I think I
appreciate it, sir.
A real opportunity for us to address some stuff this session.
See there, you filled that 10 seconds.
I did.
Richard,
Look, I can run my mouth.
I'm not giving Richard 10 seconds because he wouldn't know what to do with 10 seconds. So I will just say this. You guys are gaveling in at 4 p.m., as you all know, and the Senate is also gaveling in at 4 p.m. Richard, don't be a stranger, sir. Appreciate it very much. When the January 25th, the date comes up a couple of days before, if you don't mind, send me a reminder, and let's see if we can just kind of mention it again on the air.
Absolutely, I will.
You got it. Thank you,
Paul,
guys.